Exploring Asian ancient migrations, the connection between Black Africans and early Chinese settlers. Human history is a tapestry of migrations and cultural exchanges, evolving over tens of thousands of years across continents. This documentary ventures into one of the most fascinating yet lesser-known chapters of our shared past: the connection between ancient Black African populations and early Chinese settlers. Through archaeological, genetic, and cultural evidence, we unravel how ancient human migrations interconnected Africa and Asia, challenging the notion of isolation and redefining the roots of global civilizations. Humanity's origin story begins in Africa, often regarded as the cradle of humankind. It is here that Homo sapiens first emerged around 200,000 years ago, evolving into the species that would eventually populate the globe. Africa's diverse landscapes provided early humans with the resources they needed to thrive and eventually explore beyond their homeland. However, survival was not confined to Africa alone. Tens of thousands of years ago, small groups of humans began migrating in search of new opportunities, fertile lands, favorable climates, and abundant resources. This exodus, known as the Out-of-Africa migration, laid the foundation for the global distribution of human populations. One primary migration route used by early humans was the southern route. This pathway took early African migrants from the Horn of Africa across the Arabian Peninsula and into South and Southeast Asia, eventually reaching as far as modern-day China. This route, favored by early humans, followed coastal areas and tropical zones where survival resources like fresh water, food, and shelter were plentiful. The southern route holds critical evidence of ancient migrations, particularly the genetic traces of African ancestry appearing in populations along its path. Modern genetic studies have revealed some fascinating results that resonate with this theory. DNA evidence has shown connections between populations of South Asia, Southeast Asia, and southern China that carry genetic markers traceable to ancient African populations. This hints at deeper and more widespread interaction between these regions than previously imagined. The physical evidence of connections between ancient Africans and early Chinese settlers is as compelling as the genetic studies. Archaeological sites in China and neighboring regions have unearthed artifacts that share striking similarities with early African technologies. For example, early tool-making techniques, such as polished stone tools found in southern China, bear resemblance to African proto-tool technologies. Similarities in pottery shards, including their design and firing methods, suggest early influences that may have spread through these migrating communities. Additionally, shared aspects of early burial practices provide clues to the cultural exchanges that might have occurred. In both African and early Chinese tombs, archaeologists have discovered symbolic artifacts like jewelry or tools carefully placed with the deceased, a reflection of comparable spiritual beliefs. Genetics opens a window into the long-lost identities of ancient peoples. Today, the genomes of some southern Chinese populations reveal traces of African ancestry, a legacy of the long migratory journey taken millennia ago. Ancient DNA preserved in the skeletal remains of early settlers in southern and eastern Asia has provided researchers with critical data to contextualize these migrations. These genetic markers confirm a continuity that ties early Asians and Africans together within a global history of shared ancestry. Further supporting these connections, modern geneticists have identified the mitochondrial haplogroup L, a genetic marker exclusive to African populations, in isolated regions of Southeast Asia and parts of southern China. This suggests that the descendants of early African migrants remained and contributed to the genetic makeup of these regions for generations. Although these migrations likely spanned thousands of years, they weren't simply random movements. They were the seeds of early cultural interactions. Evidence from ancient trade routes suggests that African and Asian populations may have engaged in exchanges, sharing resources and knowledge long before recorded history. Beads made from ostrich eggshells, native to Africa, have been found in archaeological sites across Asia, including regions of ancient China. These decorative items, which likely held societal or spiritual significance, may have been carried by migrating groups or exchanged through early trade networks. In addition, advancements in technology, including early metalworking and agricultural practices, may have been part of shared knowledge systems. The domestication of certain crops and animals unique to Africa eventually spread to Asia, hinting at the cross-pollination of ideas and resources between these regions. Another fascinating layer tying Africa and early China together is the role of mythology and oral history. For millennia, humans passed down their stories, beliefs, and experiences through oral traditions, carrying cultural values across time and space. Some oral histories from southern China include ancient stories of visitors from faraway lands or distant ancestors from across the sea, which some scholars interpret as possible echoes of these ancient migrations. Additionally, similarities between African and early Chinese creation myths suggest a shared cultural memory of humankind's beginnings. While oral traditions are not definitive evidence, they form a vital piece of this broader puzzle, shedding light on the emotional and spiritual frameworks that connected early peoples. The traces of African influence may have extended into foundational elements of Chinese civilization. Agriculture, a cornerstone of early societies, saw the cultivation of crops that were likely influenced by knowledge exchanges along migration routes. Similarly, the use of bronze tools and decorative ornaments in ancient Chinese cultures reflects innovations that have parallels in African archaeology. Over time, these cultural contributions and exchanges blended with local traditions, creating the distinct identities of early Chinese societies. While Africa's direct influence might not be immediately apparent at first glance, it is an essential thread woven into the cultural fabric of the region. Throughout this exploration, leading scholars, geneticists, and archaeologists provide valuable insights into these ancient migrations. Their work challenges long-held assumptions about human evolution and migration, showing how disciplines like genetic analysis and archaeology converge to rewrite our understanding of history. Balanced arguments are presented by experts who highlight supporting evidence while also addressing the challenges and limitations of linking migrations across such vast timescales. While some aspects of these histories are speculative, the convergence of genetic, archaeological, and cultural evidence builds an increasingly persuasive case for interconnectedness. The traditional view of ancient civilizations often emphasizes regional isolation, China as self-contained, Africa as separate, and so on. But this documentary challenges those perspectives by presenting compelling evidence of early global migrations and connections. Humankind has never been static. Our ancestors were explorers, innovators, and survivors who sought better lives across vast and unfamiliar landscapes. These migrations remind us that ancient civilizations, far from being isolated, likely interacted and influenced one another in ways that shaped their unique identities. At its core, this story is about our shared humanity. Ancient migrations reveal how interconnected early societies were, demonstrating that the foundations of culture, technology, and belief systems were not confined by geography or ethnicity. The evidence explored in this documentary underscores the idea that African and early Chinese settlers, while distinct in many ways, shared a common journey of adaptation, survival, and discovery. Their migrations were not merely about moving from one place to another, but about laying the groundwork for human creativity and resilience. As we close this exploration, the connections between Black African populations and early Chinese settlers leave us with a profound lesson. Human history is not a story of isolated achievements, but one of interwoven experiences. Every migration, exchange, and cultural interaction added threads to a global tapestry that defines us today. By revisiting these ancient journeys and uncovering the impact of early African migrations on Asia, we remind ourselves that the past is not distant. It is a part of who we are. This documentary encourages viewers to rethink history as the ultimate connector, bridging cultures to reveal the global heritage we all share. As the screen fades to black, the final image lingers, a map of ancient migration routes illuminated by golden lines, showing Africa and Asia forever linked by the movement and shared aspirations of humanity. Our past, our present, and our future are bound by this enduring thread.